I'm here today with Mr. Daniel Eisenman, also known as Danimal RawBrah. I had the opportunity to spend last week with Dan and his two brothers and a group of 23 other individuals in Traverse City, where we were on one of their RawBrahs retreats, one of the retreats that these guys are hosting and that they've been doing for the last couple of years now. And it was just an amazing opportunity for growth and for connecting with like-minded people and for learning about myself and getting uncomfortable and pushing myself out of my comfort zone and out of my boundaries. And it left me with the impression of Dan's a really interesting, cool dude, and I think his perspective and his story could be helpful to a lot of people out there. And so that's why I wanted to have him on the call today. So thank you for coming on. And I guess where I want to start would be a short history for people who don't know you, who haven't heard of the RawBrahs. Maybe what's the Coles Notes version of how you got to be doing what you're doing.
Well, when I graduated college, the same exact year, my middle brother, Timothy, also known as T. Mango RawBrah, graduated high school. And before that, we've always had a passion for traveling, learning by traveling. We had this idea to get paid to do the things that we would pay to do. That just seemed to make a lot of sense to us. So, like most adventurous young men, they would probably pay to travel around the world and pursue their passion. And ours was surfing and going to new places. And the more that we did that, the more that we gained reputation from our friends. These guys are traveling. I want to take trips with them. So we started hosting retreats. This was before the RawBrahs. We would host alternative spring break trips. We were not too interested in living only for the weekend. We had always had a passion for health, vitality. So that was the idea of going to alternative spring breaks, not just a place where you would go get trashed, wasted, and come back worse, tired, but come back rejuvenated. However, just by word of mouth and everything, it wasn't gaining enough momentum. So we took a break from that, and plus it wasn't sustainable. Even though we were interested in vitality and health, we were attracted. Somehow a lot of people were coming still with the mentality like, this is the 1 week a year I'm going on vacation. Let's go crazy, go buy cocaine from local Costa Rican drug dealers, and it was just like too much of a liability. We were just like watching out for people, making sure they weren't getting drunk and drowning, making sure they weren't doing the wrong things. We were kind of like babysitters. So we kind of lost interest in that for a second. We decided to become Craigslist connoisseurs. Basically, if there was a music festival or an event that we wanted to go to, we would try to find a job at it. Whether it was a promotional model, a brand ambassador, or a marketing manager. We would just find these different gigs to where we became pretty well versed in marketing, promotions, and advertising, and just being at the front line of what big companies pay people to do. But then we found a disconnect between what we were promoting and what we believed in. So that's when our previous course and the new course kind of collided. We were like, hey, wait a minute, we're passionate about health. Why don't we start doing health retreats and use all this marketing and advertising tricks that we found to advertise? So we became pretty well versed in social media and started doing health retreats. And it became the RawBrahs. We started making videos about health, fitness, honesty. We actually experimented with the raw vegan diet for about 6 months, 7 months. Longer on and off, but hardcore for about 6 or 7 months. And that caught a lot of interest. Just, 3 shirtless brothers eating 30 bananas a day, or 30 bananas in a video and talking about the health benefits of bananas. But eventually our retreats and our lifestyle became more about just like what's true for us in the moment. Be very authentic. All of a sudden the RawBrahs became raw in their transparency and their authenticity. And that seemed to resonate deeply with a lot of people. It seems like people are really, especially right now, the world is starving for real relationships. And that's what we do retreats on now. We do retreats on real relationships, connecting with each other in a very meaningful way by going there. You know, when people say, don't go there, we go there. And we find out what we typically avoid talking about is what actually connects us the most. Find out what's the most personal, what's the most universal. I mean, it's just a solid foundation for retreats. So we do that as the foundation for the retreat. A lot of authentic communication and raw honesty exercises. And then we add what we're also passionate about, adventure and good eating and traveling to new places. And it just attracts a very high vibrating person himself.
Yeah, and I can definitely speak to that for anyone listening in who's maybe interested or wanting to learn more about this stuff. It's definitely as advertised, and it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for people who want to stay within their boundaries and who want to, just go somewhere and party and basically check out for a week. It's very engaged and it's very, very demanding in a lot of ways, emotionally, mentally, and physically, depending on how far you want to push yourself and how much you want to get out of it. But, yeah, so I definitely appreciate what you guys are doing and hope that more people will have the opportunity to check something like that out if they feel called to. And so, getting back a little bit to the whole raw thing, I know you guys have definitely felt the backlash of the angry vegans, or the delusional vegans, as I like to call them, who have attached themselves to this idea that if we just stop eating all animals and sort of living creatures, that will save the world and everyone will be super healthy and, we'll end global warming and all these sorts of issues. And so, I mean, you guys have been through the whole sort of spectrum, and I'm wondering if you can just give a little bit of an insight into, well, I guess, what it's like to be within sort of a dogmatic paradigm like that. I mean, I'm even seeing it with people at my school. I study holistic nutrition, and so there's still a lot of people who are vegans, not so many raw vegans. But then people I work with at Whole Foods who they kind of are starting to define themselves as these labels of, I'm a raw vegan or I want to eat mostly raw. I'm wondering if you can give a little insight into maybe what it's like to buy into something like that and to attach so firmly to those sorts of ideas.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning for us, the raw vegan diet, I mean, basically, when you go raw vegan, not only are you eating almost just fruits and vegetables, you become a connoisseur of the good fruits and the good vegetables. And I really appreciate that aspect of being surrounded by raw vegans. The people that take it seriously really take eating local and organic and right and seasoned to the next level. And I still, some of my favorite foods in the world are good, ripe fruits. If I'm in Costa Rica, really there's not much that can be good ripe mango or a fresh coconut water off the tree. So I gained a whole new respect for real food. At the same time, when you go raw vegan, you're cutting out almost everything. You're cutting out processed dairy, you're cutting out overcooked meat, you're cutting out packaged foods. Cutting out basically anything that's probably inflammatory. And for us, that was a great cleanse in the beginning. We definitely reaped benefits. We had more energy. We were buzzing around like little bumblebees. We were basically probably high on glucose. Mm-hmm. Eating a lot of glucose. We aren't like raw vegans, like Gerson therapy. It wasn't like a therapeutic type of eating. It was more just like all you can eat, ripe fruit, anytime you wanted. I mean, we were eating pounds and pounds of Georgia watermelons, up to 10 bananas for a meal, I mean, it was awesome. That was awesome. And so that being said, right there, it was almost like, I think humans just generally, especially in our culture today, like to categorize ourselves and we're always looking for meaning and looking for something, a higher standard of living. When sometimes we think we found it, we become attached. And then for a few months there, with so many people looking up to us, we were like, most raw vegans, if you look at them, they're sort of look like marathon runners. They're skinny, but sometimes they look a little frail. Maybe their teeth don't look so healthy. Their hair looks a little thin. They look a little weak, emaciated, and maybe lacking a little sexual energy, clear thought. And that we became that real quick. I look back at some of our videos and I'm like, whoa, that was me. But when you're in it, you just don't. It's hard to realize it. It's hard to take a real objective view of things when you're fully immersed in the culture and all these people looking up to you like you're the spokesmodels for this lifestyle.
Mm.
But it took a few good friends and my dad, some people that kind of just really speak authentically to us. We kind of like, hey, your teeth don't look so healthy. They're kind of thin. And I was having all kinds of things. I was becoming much more I was very heady. Feeling really good. Just like real kind of buzzing a lot. But not that grounded, kind of flighty. I couldn't think that clearly. And my sexual energy was just gone. I just didn't really have much care or attraction to women. And before this, I was kind of like a lady man, a little bit. Like a lot of women were attracted to me. But at this point in my life, all of a sudden, I just attracted women, and women just attracted me. And another red flag, we've always been in fitness, but this was the first time in my life where I was losing weight and getting chubbier, kind of getting fatter, and weaker. I was getting weaker and all of a sudden my stomach I wasn't as cut or as vital as I used to physically. And that was cool, I was like, yeah, this is just the path of enlightenment type of idea. And I do still think it's a great diet if your intention is to meditate in the mountains. It's a great diet for that. It's very not distracting. You're not really thinking with the root. You're more in your head, more maybe. It doesn't seem too grounded. So finally, Daniel, the youngest brother, who probably has the highest metabolism, who's the most serious about athletics at this point, he just wasn't functioning. And when he said he decided he was going to stop, he was going to try eating some raw eggs or raw milk, and we were very disappointed because at this point it became about living up to a label. It's like we're 100% raw vegan for this period of time, and I was not too proud of how I reacted. I got very angry and disappointed, and we almost kind of condemned him. At the same time, though, he kind of stood strong, and we made it public. We did not want to live a lie. The last thing we wanted to do was give false impression that we were doing something, that we were being these raw vegans, not meat. Especially since we've been exposed to the community that sometimes keeps certain things secret. As a side note, I would always trust what you see online. Sometimes when you have 5,000 or 10,000 or a million followers, expecting you to live a certain lifestyle, that puts a lot of pressure on you to maybe be skewed towards that rather than what's truthful for the person to know. That person has a lot of pressure on to live up to a certain expectation. But Nathaniel went through with it, and he definitely all of a sudden felt different. He loved the benefits. So I decided one night I'm going to eat a piece of fish. And what happened was when we publicized Nathaniel not no longer raw vegan 100%, the way people reacted to him was just sort of sickening. People twice his age saying like really mean, hateful. All of a sudden the community didn't seem that loving. It seemed like they loved us more for what we did than who we were. It was kind of what I would describe as an FBI, a function-based identity.
Mm.
It was not, that didn't resonate. I think someone like, hey, maybe whatever. Like, I'm gonna eat a piece of fish. One night my dad made me a piece of salmon. And the next morning, I woke up, I know a while back, I'm like a running joke about being in the community, but I woke up with morning wood for the first time in a long time, and I kind of had forgotten what that even was. And that was like a sign to me, especially if you look at health from a biological perspective, of being in your highest capacity, pass on your genes, and the most advantageous way possible. I've had that morning wood in a long time. I just had animal products I ate, especially high quality animal products. It was like taking steroids. I was just amped up. I had felt strength I hadn't felt in a long time. I was thinking clearer. All of a sudden, I started becoming more interested in women. Like I was more intrasexually. I had felt more grounded. I felt more like a man. That I would describe as like a much more masculine, grounded energy. So we were just told the truth about it. And there was a lot of backlash, but at that point, I think it became more important for us to be truthful than to live up to a subculture's expectations of what's best for us. We became our own guides, or tapped more into, our God-given abilities rather than expectations placed on us from outside ourselves. But yeah, it's an easy trap to fall into, really. And I do think there's definitely plenty of people out there, you said it'll change your brain chemistry, and I do think that it's easier to become maybe more judgmental, more closed-minded, more like, hey, I'm better than other people, let's ignore them, anything they say, I just write off completely, it's not the truth, they're just lost. Kind of like, just think, I was looking down on it. And that was a great lesson. The whole journey was an amazing experience, and I love food. I have such a higher respect for good food, high quality food, and it was like a cleanse for me to definitely regain some intuitive wisdom in how different foods treat me. And maybe lately I can't barely eat. After that, I can't barely eat red rare meat late at night. Otherwise, I'm too amped up. It's like I took a shot of testosterone. I eat it earlier in the day before a workout. Just like little tricks like that.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. And I think it's, when it comes to health and healthy eating and being in touch with your body, I feel like so many of us, I was definitely there before I got into health, but so many of us are just disconnected from our bodies. We're disconnected from our energy. We don't know how to interpret the signals that our body's giving us, and how to know say we have a craving for something. Is that a craving because our body is really wanting those nutrients, or is it a mental thing? And so, especially for people who are coming from, like the standard American sort of model, I think it's exactly what you said. I think that's almost what you guys have gone through could almost be a really good loose template for people, to go from something where it's very processed and very overstimulating and very lacking in nutrients to going in something that's very high nutrient and very cleansing, in order to reestablish that connection with the body. Which for me, reestablishing connection with the body, and cultivating different, and I guess you could call them higher states of awareness, has really been, I guess, the foundation for my own healing and the healing that I'm seeing other people going through, and just healing in general. Seems to come back to those sort of foundational aspects, which is why I'm so fascinated by it. And so keen to see people have these experiences, right? And to see food for what it really is, and to eat real food, and to know what real food is, right? So yeah, it sounds like you guys definitely experienced that and went through that. I guess there's still a lot of vegans and raw vegans out there who are still, I guess, buying into the idea that's the way to salvation and lifelong health. And I mean, maybe for some of them it is. The whole idea of biochemical individuality, and what could be good for one person isn't necessarily good for another person. I think it's another really important thing to remember. So,
yeah, I mean, just one little note on that, like you're speaking of right there, it's very important to realize that, we became totally immersed in in the diet, interviewing all kinds of experts in different fields, especially when we decided to deviate from strict raw veganism. That opened up just so many different windows. So like raw primal, raw paleo, or eat right for your blood type, or all these different ideas. And the thing was that the more I read and the more I researched, I almost realized that if you only read one of these things, most people would be convinced of that idea. And I really do believe a lot of people are telling the truth, speaking authentically for themselves. But when we saw how different Danimal reacted to the same diet we did, Nathaniel had a much harder time. Nathaniel comes from the same family, same genetics, where both parents are the same, almost the same environment. To see him react so differently to a diet compared to us. Heck, what about someone that came from a different side of the world that had different genetic background? What about a different environment? I mean, even for myself, in different environments, I react differently to foods. So if I'm in Costa Rica, I'm definitely going to do much better with a higher liquid diet where I'm drinking a lot of electrolytes, being in the tropical environment, the sun beating down on me. I'm craving much more coconut water and juicy fruits. Whereas if I'm in Canada, it's cold, maybe I would want, especially in the winter time, where we went to Alaska, and I was cold up there, I was probably craving much more of the foods they had up there, whether it was wild meats, or just some berries and wild meats, some more grounding, heating foods. Mm-hmm. So I really think a lot of these diets are working for the author, or working for the component of the diet, but that doesn't mean it's a one-size-fits-all. And I think that just speaks volumes, not only diets, but exercise, to a lot of aspects of life. It's very important to realize that it may be an individual thing.
Mm-hmm. And it almost always is an individual thing. And that's why I would encourage people listening, people who are on the path of health, or who are looking to, maybe achieve or achieve a higher level of health, or, put on some muscle mass or lose some weight, to not buy into ideologies, and to really bring it back to themselves. And how are you feeling? How are you sleeping? How is your sex drive? What are all these baseline indicators for health and well-being? Are you happy? Are you depressed? Be checking in and be aware of these things, as much as you can. Because like you said, and I've actually gone through a similar experience, with the lack of sexual vitality for a while. I've never been a raw vegan, but I went through a period of depression where I was just so in my head and so disconnected from the body, and so I ended up isolating myself from a lot of friends and from a lot of these sort of healthy influences that I had established. This was after I came back from my time in Peru, and so not knowing really how to reintegrate into society, I kind of ended up isolating myself and becoming depressed. And I went through a very similar thing where, your interest in women and your interest in sex and just your sex drive and morning wood and stuff like that, it was non-existent. And if you can get used to that, and I think there's probably a lot of people who have probably been there for an extended amount of time, and who might have gotten used to that, and who have forgotten, what it feels like to be healthy and vital and full of energy and, wanting to procreate, more or less. Which I think it's like you said, those are sort of the base indicators on a biological level that your biology is happy.
My bigger belief if I cause the diet, cause me to function at my highest capacity as a human being, where I can think clearer, move best, be emotionally and stay connected to people, not distracted by being high on sugar or tired, not eating enough. So whatever the diet of the day is, more important than keeping a label or living up to a certain type of dogma or standard is me being the best human being I can be. That's how I believe in the plan. And I know sometimes you get caught into the idea that, well, if I don't eat this meat, then I'm not killing this cow. I'm not contributing to this cow's death. But the truth of the matter is, cows, there's as many cows as there are because we raise them. Humans are the cause of all the cows. That's another whole debate. But maybe having a little license for cows or innocent private, I'm able to contribute more to society rather than find with 100% of standing from it. And that became more important than being a raw vegan.
And I think it's so important. And yeah, I want to try and keep this not too much on the diet and vegan and dogma sort of tangent, but it's just so easy to be really closed-minded and to, I mean, when you have these certain beliefs, any new information that comes in is filtered through our perception, right? It's like none of us can have a truly objective experience of life because we're all stuck in our bodies with our five senses, with our experiences, and every new experience that comes in is filtered through that, which makes it incredibly hard to really examine truth and find truth and reevaluate beliefs and ideas, which is something I think we need to be encouraging more than really anything these days, is encouraging people to evaluate, okay, what's working for you, what beliefs or values do you hold that might be actually hindering you, which brings me back to sort of the whole idea of these retreats, right? It's all about experimenting with new ways of relating and being okay, being wrong, and not having to be right all the time, and being open to new possibilities and new experiences, and just novelty, which I think is something that as humans we're so attracted to, and that it's almost like an evolutionary force, you know? We create new tools, we eat new foods, we have new experiences, we develop language and art and all these novel experiences that have brought us to where we are today. And so I think it's a trap that a lot of us can fall into, living in the time that we live now, in at least for us in North America, in developed Western society, where life has gotten real easy in many ways. You know, we don't have to necessarily worry about food, whereas for thousands and thousands of years and generations, food and shelter and water were like on the forefront of our daily worries, right? Now we've got too much food, right? And we've got too much of the wrong kind of food. And so we're in a completely different environment these days. And I think it's led to, and I mean, you can go into whether this is a conspiracy or this or that. I think we both would agree that power and profit are kind of the main motivators of some of the more negative aspects that we see in society. But I think it's led a lot of people to not only be disconnected from their body, but to have just a really, I like what Daniel Vitalis calls like a blunted awareness, you know? We're just so unaware of our environment and our thoughts and just sort of the reality of what it means to be a human in the year 2014, that we're kind of just mindlessly going around and consuming whatever we're told to consume. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I'm kind of just going off on a little rant here, but
Rant.
yeah, yeah.
I just call it negative shadow, a little shadow. I'm big on using words or applications for us to take action. So it's a problem, challenge, for the negative thing, shadow. But yeah, pretty important. Thanks for sharing that. And I do think a lot of it, diet is so crucial that it's one of man's biggest challenges to have is plant food or eating enough. And now one of man's biggest challenges is having too much of the wrong kind at our disposal. And I do think that's one of the best ways to emphasize large mass of people is overfeeding them, not understanding, and using channels such as media or radio or internet kind of direct them to kind of hypnotize them. And we become very, and I think in some ways, mindful, some ways, mindset. It's starting to become used by our minds because our minds are no longer used by for survival. Because they're enhanced, especially in people in the world. We're consumed where now our most people are consumed with my car is nice to my neighbor, or my house is nice to my neighbor, or do I have enough money saved up, rather than some of the things that are more meaningful, such as meaningful relationships and connecting with others, and learning and loving them, learning to love. And at our retreat, we try to take it back to that. They take it back to, we're living a very amazing time. We're so blessed to live in the world that we do. If you show people the world that we lived in 2,000 years ago, told people that you could speak into a stone type of thing made out of earth and metal, where I could speak to one person in Israel, and I could speak to someone around Toronto, and I could speak to someone in California, about looking into that thing, instead on the computer, and they would call you crazy. It's like you're living in a science fiction world, and you go, we need to take care of you, drink some of it. But, it's an amazing time.
Mm-hmm.
And then lose our minds back to our hearts. So I guess we've broken up on our tangents there. But what was there a question, or were we just talking about the world today versus the past?
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of going there, but I want to bring it back to, and even how you caught me. And I loved how throughout the week, you were very careful to really, when someone's asking a question or directing a thought at you, to really break down what it is they're saying. I think this is really important, and a lot of people don't think about this enough, is the power of language. And this whole idea of, I don't know where I first heard it, but the whole idea that as human beings we speak things into creation. And it almost goes back to like a lot of sort of religious myth and creation stories about how God spoke and the world was created, and how by vocalizing and creating vibrations through our words, we're transmitting meaning to each other. And people don't really think about how they talk and language in this way. And so I really appreciated how you would really break down, okay, are you saying this? Because these are the words you're saying, so it sounds like you're trying to convey something else. And I guess we can just talk about that and how important language is, and how often we lie or we say things that aren't true in a way almost to continue to play a victim role, I guess. Maybe you can talk about that a bit.
Yeah, no, I think our mind became language, and just like we were using our minds to survive in the past, no longer having as much of an issue or being our mind taken over. I think language is still very similar. I've imagined this is a fun little theory. I don't know, I have studied this, but I think it's something I spoke to you about. When I was speaking, Anna brought it up about how maybe we speak words out of our mouth just for looking exactly in the eye. Maybe that was one of the original reasons that we make noises out of our mouth. Because if the eyes are windows to the soul, maybe it's just making noises for the eyes. And I just found some profound experiences not. And that there seems to be a call to action, silent meditation retreats, and eye gazing, find people that agree with you, surround yourself with them, and you all become public. And everyone, sometimes you can just actually listen to what people are saying. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes I don't. I mean, I hope someone's hearing something that I said that's contradictory. I imagine contradicting myself a couple times. And my sentences weren't exactly correctly, or maybe I didn't make sense. I mean, that's fine. You know, that's cool. I'm cool being wrong or making mistakes. But I like to find myself willing to call me out when I do. Hey, are you sure that's true? Or does that make sense? Or how I disagree? I like to make connections, actually, maybe more so. Only a connection based on agreement. I like to make connections based on difference. And, you know, maybe you said some ideas about religion that I agree with. I associate myself with a person, and I'm okay with that. Hey, that's cool to see that as well. And I mean, that's what language in a way is all about. I mean, if we actually see each other and we disagree with the problem in our head, there's so much to be learned. It's amazing what you can learn through disagreement. And I think that's what how we have to came together. And they were okay with it. They were okay with it. And they were okay with being still friends, still having relationships, sticking with each other, telling the truth, meaning what they say and what they mean. I think those are very important tools of being human beings. And one of the reasons maybe we are part of positive change is our communication together.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And yeah, it's profound. Well, first of all, what you said about, disagreements. It's like with anything in life. It seems the only way to grow and to, get stronger and more and get wiser and develop yourself as a human being is through challenge and through disagreements and through facing adversity. I know for myself, having my appendix burst and almost dying, it sent me down a path of recovery, and it was very painful and challenging. But I tell everybody now, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it woke me up to, I'm going to die one day. What am I doing with my time? Am I spending my time in a way that I want to? Am I going to look back and regret the way or the path that I've taken? And in the same way, it's if you spend your entire life surrounded by people that are just yes men, I don't think you're going to learn very much. I don't think you're going to discover very much about yourself. I think potentially you're just setting yourself up for a lifetime of regret when you finally realize how much exists outside of your little yes man bubble that you've been existing in.
Yeah, it's definitely, I just want to talk to anyone in this video to, instead of bombing the conversation, keep their head still, look at the person in the eye, and actually listen to what they're saying. And if there's something that you disagree with, express that. And if there's something that you agree with, to express that. There's some of these famous sayings. Life, real growth takes place outside your comfort zone. If you believe that, you gotta stop being a bottleneck. Because the most comfortable thing you can do is just you want to I want your head to say sorry. I'm sorry. And that's not what our retreats are about. Our retreats are for expressing your truth and being not attached to that. Being willing to maybe think, hey, the person challenges what's about that belief that is true. What can I prove? What's right? That's one of my new favorite things to do is I'm never in the brief argument with someone who thinks my friend is help, maybe unthink angry. I'm not that fear of anger. I actually really embrace anger. But sometimes, especially with family members, my anger can take over, and maybe I all of a sudden start saying things I don't mean. At that point, I would say maybe I'm thinking myself. I like to argue with that person and prove them right. What they are saying is against it could be true, right? It's become their voice in a way. And that's an amazing way to make over. So look for the truth of the kill my own reputation? How can I reach my reputation? How can I prove myself wrong? It's just been a fascinating way to connect.
For sure, for sure. And again, yeah, I mean, I think for the average person hearing some of this stuff, they probably think we're crazy. And I think a while back, I kind of took the opinion that the more things that I do that are counter to the sort of pervasive culture, then I think that's like the better off I'll be. And I mean, it's kind of a blanket statement, but when I look around and I just see how many people, they're living, I forget who said it, but they said people live lives of quiet desperation. And you just see it more and more when you learn, I guess, how to read body language and how to pick up on people's energy. You just see a bunch of really depressed, sort of disconnected people walking around. And I think if they were to come into contact with someone like yourself who's going to stare them in the eyes and who's going to disagree and who's going to not do potentially the socially accepted sort of easy thing to do, then it can be a real shakeup in their reality, which I'm all for. I want people to get shaken up. I often think I'll go out to a park and do yoga or something, or do some qigong or climb trees, barefoot, shirt off, and almost just to plant seeds in people's brain of, okay, what's this guy doing? Like, why is he doing that? Like, why don't more people do that? So I love it. I'm all for it. I think the world needs much, much more of this sort of, bucking the status quo and experimenting with new ideas and new ways to communicate and new ways to just to be and to exist and to eat and to move. All these things that I know from my life, and I know you share the same experience as well. All these things that have just enriched our lives in ways that are really invaluable.
Yeah, personally, I'm very crazy. Sometimes I wonder, how close I am to hovering over truth. I'm fine with being crazy. I tend to look around and I see what normal is. Normal doesn't seem that nice. Normal doesn't seem that exciting. I like to push the status quo, push people to boundaries. It's very exciting. I don't believe in another quote. The opposite of love is not hate. It's indifference. And when I get triggered or angry at someone, I look at it like I love them. There's something about the person that they're reflecting something I don't understand about myself. They're reflecting something I don't like about my own self, but they're reflecting something I want. So how great is this to get angry? Depression may not necessarily be the opposite of happiness. Depression may just be emotional or anger. If you think about energy, emotions, and we can let them flow, or we can suppress them. Maybe suppression of your emotions, suppression of depression. I don't know. That means it stays healthy way, and vice versa. And that love our retreat, that people. We co-create that concept. I believe the blessings of God, and that's what the world is starving for. Connection, real connection, based on who you are. I think how you feel. How you feel. What the simple basis, but tell you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And just to go on that, I found after the retreat ended, well, the night the retreat ended, I ended up down in the dock. I had a little toke of cannabis, and I ended up down in the dock, lying and looking up at the stars, and like it always does for me, cannabis, sort of opens up my perception, relaxes me in a way, and allows me to sort of observe myself from a potentially more objective point of view, although it's still subjective. And I found that even within this context that we'd created, I was still holding back. I was still, judging ideas or things that I wanted to happen or things that I want to express as not acceptable or inappropriate. And so just witnessing that, even in this context, it just for me, it showed me how deep the conditioning is, and how, it's a lifelong sort of practice, like it is with anything, with eating healthy, with exercising. It's a lifelong practice that you have to sort of take up to hold yourself to that standard, to that ideal, to pursue that ideal. Which I think is almost a lost art. And I'm not too well schooled on philosophy, but it seems to me, some of the great philosophers like Aristotle and Plato and Socrates, at least some Greek philosophers, they talked about pursuing excellence and pursuing these higher ideals and really trying to embody these things as a practice and as a way to better yourself and to better the world. And I think that's sort of an attitude that is lost on a lot of people these days, and one which I really think is essential if you're gonna live a happy and healthy and thriving life, and if you're going to evolve as a human being. And so that's why I really loved how you guys brought that to the table in the retreat. You lay out these sort of ideals and these values that we're going to try to aspire to, at least for this period of 4 or 5 days. But then to take that with you as you leave, and to try and really integrate that into your life, I think that's where the real magic is going to happen.
Yeah, no, I totally agree that being a lifelong practice. I don't see this practice continuous being able to try that out there. And if the people who alluded to the beginning, ones that are persuaded by power and profit, it's very in their interest to have people that are hypnotized by hypnotized by and it's uncomfortable or very difficult to act like they need to sit down, shut up, and no, that's the way to teach us at the beginning. The moment you start thinking on your own or disagree with the teacher is the moment that you receive punishment. And when we're doing this retreat, the type of person, sometimes the most the best one never disagree with us. And they try to help me do it. And that's the beautiful thing about emotions. The scary thing about emotions is emotions don't need to make sense. Everyone of their emotions. Where I think that's very teaches us that, and the math side challenge like it's here to test them. It's here to test math instant love. Are we stand our ground? That you can still use that person even through their ground emotions. And that's what I like about the challenge is the mystery is the prize. The challenge is some people would call that weakness, challenge. I would say that are weaknesses are challenges, but for some people, really look deeper into it, you kind of step into the paradigm around the consciousness that your weakness is actually your strength, and the gift is to work on it. The gift is to consistently challenge and cognitive to overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the wife of that. She's definitely happy to hypnotize. And she doesn't always have to make sense of her emotions. And that's very enlightening. She just allows herself to feel those emotions, whereas we need to have a more, maybe like yourself, to like make sense of you're more caught up in the logical side. Well, I can't act with it.
Mm-hmm.
I find it very empowering. To act how you feel regardless.
Yeah.
It's not straight and healthy, good boundaries set up.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, I can identify with that. Always trying to reason my way through situations, or this happened for this reason, or I'm feeling this because of this. Always creating stories to explain my experience. When really it's completely unnecessary. The experience is the experience, and to go through it and to really be present in it, I think, is where we find the most growth and the most real learning and the most real connection, rather than getting caught up in the mind with the various stories we like to tell ourselves to either protect our self-esteem or maintain a certain reputation or image. But yeah, it's very disconnecting.
Yeah, we keep our way around experiences rather than feel our way through them. And it's pretty exciting to allow yourself to lose your mind, connect with your heart for a little bit, and just really feel your way through your experience. Very liberating, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so, I had just another couple things I wanted to ask. For someone, say we got someone who is totally new to all this sort of stuff, who's kind of maybe not following along on the same wavelength. Hopefully, we're planting some seeds. But for someone who would, they look more toward the traditional path of, you get a secure job and you save up your money for retirement, and you work your 40-hour or more work week. Seems like more for a lot of people these days. And that's sort of life, right? And I guess because you've been able to sort of construct this unique way of living, that's not so common. So I guess what I'd like to know is sort of what is maybe like an average day or an average day in the life of Danimal, and also what do you find in your day to day that really brings you fulfillment and a sense of joy and connection and just knowing, I guess, that what you're doing is worthwhile. I think for so many people, they're working a job or they're pursuing something that they feel eventually will be worthwhile, when they get that promotion or they earn this amount of money. But they end up putting off so much of their life. So I guess if you could just talk to that, what's your day-to-day like maybe when you're at home versus when you're at a retreat, and how do those values and things that you pursue enrich your life? And why would somebody maybe want to look at what you've done and think, okay, that's something I could do too. This isn't maybe I don't have to do the traditional path either.
For some reason, that sounded like one of my questions.
Yeah, it kind of was. But take it however you will.
Yeah, I think I don't live a very lifestyle at all. I've always been kind of against the grain. I've always come, my comfort is actually not a lot of things. I've always, something inside me stuff is real not at peace, not doing everything else is doing well. So, I'm not sure if that's a natural thing that I've stuck with from my childhood. Maybe we're all born with that. Maybe we're all born to be a little unique. But later on, because of conditioning, social conditioning, we find ourselves wanting to fit in. I don't have much interest. So, hopefully, I would like to rationalize that, means maybe it happens to it. I see a big message, I also keep being able to give our gifts in different ways, and learn from each other. But yeah, that being said, I don't have. I have my like especially at retreats or traveling. I live more of a reactionary lifestyle, reacting to what's going on, rather than having a plan. I always thought that best plans are unplanned. Yeah, things will organically express itself, or what I usually have my fun. That's kind of the tagline of our retreat. So like expect nothing to experience everything, or expect anything to experience everything. So definitely, being deep attached to a certain degree is very helpful to me to be lost in the moment, having these presence. So definitely some presence sometimes. Beyond happiness, or beyond rich, or beyond certain people, say it's family, or kids, or wife, the house, pick the fence, all that. I definitely find a lot of fulfillment present, being present. And when I have a lot of expectations, a lot of attachment, I just find myself being present. That being said, and being as experimental as I am, Unity has definitely resonated with me. I love waking up this morning, and I would say, I think I first heard Paul check dilution is the solution to pollution. And I think you do live in a very polluted environment, regardless. I mean, unless you're living up in British Columbia wilderness or somewhere like that, you're just inevitably influenced by the environment. So I find a lot of cleansing, healing in water, and drinking seawater. I wake up and I love to drink a liter of water. One of the first things I do, and then I love getting into water. It's very important to me for my location. As long as I've been in one place, probably my family, I can see the ocean where I'm at, because I love getting in the ocean. Or if I'm not in the ocean, I love to use cold showers. And I love being light. I like to have my energy up in my heart, my body, my head, rest in my stomach. I guess let's people don't eat correctly. I'll drink coffee. I love good coffee. I just invested in a cold brew coffee system where you can usually add no heat, just slow drip, low acid, high caffeine, good. Local coffee beans, precious ground, the things that I put my food I take very seriously. I think a lot of things that get bad rep, such as coffee, beer, or cannabis, and all those things are dualistic and used by them, but I try to use them. I'm not always. I follow things as well, and I like to use by them, especially coffee. But I find I want to drink that early in the day, on an empty stomach, maybe with some raw milk. My refrigerator, I have raw milk in a glass bottle, and I'm looking at a cold brew coffee maker made out of glassware. And it has paper filters, that kind of stuff I'm a little concerned about. But I'm definitely concerned. That's like the top priority for what I put in my body and how I feel. I try to really stay in touch with that. I try to eat good foods. I try to do activities I love. I try to feel good, do good, feel good. Like, I feel like when we feel good, then we're going to be able to do better. I think it's very important to sleep deep and play and then be awake hard. Like, to the capacity that you allow yourself to sleep deep, like the similar capacity that you allow yourself to be fully awake during the day. So I like to be fully awake and alive and do the things that cause me to do that. Sometimes that's surfing in cold water without a wetsuit. Going and I love scaring myself. I think we're all scared, just some of us decide to face our fears. So if I can find ways to scare myself socially in a safe way, I still hold my body, my physical body, to keeping it safe is a priority. But if I can keep that safe and scare myself at the same time, I love that. Consider that a life hack. So whether it's going to talk to someone that you don't want to talk to, something that you don't want to talk about, and just staying in your body through that experience, that can be a very enlightening experience. Surfing, stay pretty active. Like I said, for my job, we really work on these trees. We really love making our lifestyle sort of our business. Our business and our lifestyle are very intertwined, and I find a lot of peace in that. I find a lot of peace in praying. I think it's so important to pray. I can't speak highly enough of the attitude of gratitude. I think when we lose that God or ourselves have a way of reminding ourselves that you're not being grateful. Maybe accidents happen. Something to bring you back to like, hey, this life is fragile. living an amazing world, amazing opportunity it is to be alive for the period of time we're alive. And just remind me of that and stay present in that gratitude is very important. Just having an honest relationship with my family and my friends and my circle, my close circle of friends, my wife, basically where I'm almost borderline obsessive with telling them almost every uncomfortable thought. Not only action, like sometimes just today I heard about a relationship where someone was lying about their actions, and I was like, I have a hard time keeping them the truth of all my thoughts, much less lying. I can't even empathize with that situation. And I really find importance in holding truth and presence to a pedestal, and just being who I am, and letting the chips fall where they may. And I seem to be attract a lot of amazing people by doing that, such as yourself. And at night, I like to unwind with some quality beer, and maybe read the Bible, maybe cuddle with my wife. I find a lot of peace and presence also with being connected with human beings and acting how I feel with them and saying what I mean and not necessarily having, as we spoke about earlier, relationships based on only things we agree about, but kind of sitting and going through each other like things we're uncomfortable about. And recently I started experimenting with some cannabis, which our video will be about, and that's been interesting, just having a different plant's perspective. I'm excited to upload that video on our YouTube channel. I'll talk about that. But that's kind of the routine here at home. And when we travel, some of those things might stay the same, especially with coffee or beer or the certain types of food, or finding, making very important choices with that. But the day could be completely different. It could just be maybe hiking, or it could be just getting lost in some kind of weird culture, or, scaring ourselves by doing something that's fun. Turning the uncomfortable into fun comfortable. To speak about my days a little bit confusing for me, so hopefully I add some clarity to that rant.
No, for sure. And I think, at least for me, what I'm picking up is that, it is all about presence. It's about feeling good. It's about being around people that you love and that are challenging you and that are encouraging your growth. Taking care of your body, appreciating nature. It's all these very simple things, these things that we already have access to if we go out and look for them and make it a priority to get into our lives. And it seems like those simple things, those simple sort of really ingrained in our DNA sort of habits and practices that have allowed us to get to where we're at as a species. It's like we can't, the technological development can't make up for the history that we have with those simple things, with those simple connections that really bind us together and enrich our experience. And so I would encourage people listening, to maybe one night a week. They say the average American or North American is watching 3 to 4 hours of TV a day. I know I used to certainly watch probably that much TV back in high school and early university days. But just do an experiment. Just change it up a little. Instead of watching your show every night, go outside and climb a tree or go throw a frisbee around in the field. Do something simple to have fun. And this was another big thing that I really got out of your guys' retreat is that I've forgotten in many ways how to have fun and to just relax and to laugh and to smile. And I think that was one of the biggest takeaways for me is how, I'm very focused on health and I studied holistic nutrition and all these different diets and supplements and this and that. But it's like all the time while I'm studying that, I'm all just in my head and I'm not connecting with people and I'm not laughing. And, it's like I'm not tapping into some of the best medicine that we have as humans, which is to share company, to share good company, and to laugh and to enjoy ourselves. And I'm sure that if I'm experiencing these things, that other people are as well. yeah, so I would just encourage people to really laugh and to not always do things with like a motive in mind. I found for myself, I got really obsessed, and I'm still somewhat obsessed with like entrepreneurship and business building and making money and becoming an economic success sort of by our cultural standards. And it's something that is very strange because before I went away for a period of 7 months and went to Peru, I don't think I really had that, or I wasn't at least aware of it as much. But then coming back, it's like the stark contrast between being in a developing country where people are happy just to hang out and have food and have water and have company, to coming back to where we have so much, but yet we're so unfulfilled and we're always looking for more and more and more. And yeah, it seems like from what you're describing and from what I experienced in my week with you guys, really less is more. And I truly believe that. That less is more and that simple is usually better. And yeah, that no amount of money or fame or fortune or all these, sort of things that we're kind of told are going to lead us to fulfillment or happiness, they don't do the trick. I mean, we saw Robin Williams killed himself while we were on our retreat. I mean, that's someone who had the fame, had the fortune, and clearly was still depressed and still, lacking in some capacity. So, yeah, I just really appreciate the simple pleasures, much more so even after our time together, and encourage people to pursue those simple pleasures. When it comes to food or drink or friends, to taste what you're eating, to chew your food and to savor each bite and to be thankful, tying into gratitude, I often like to, when I sit down with a meal, and it's funny, if I've smoked, if I'm high, quote unquote, I'm much more likely to take the time and be mindful about saying a really good blessing and really giving proper thanks for what I'm about to enjoy. But I think there's so much power in that it's free. It's just waiting for us to tap into. Yeah.
And it would be crazy. Or walk down the street and basically eat foods from around the world with one person. And that's crazy. It's crazy to really start to crack. I can get foods from Peru, from Asia, from Africa, all in one grocery store. Less than 30 minutes. Amazing. It's grateful. It's very great. Great. And yeah, I don't know if I agree. I mean, I agree with you. I don't know if I agree. How can we be bored? There's always a way to scare us, to make ourselves feel uncomfortable, to excite ourselves, whether it's through a honest conversation or if it's really what happened to Robin Williams. Maybe something like that. I mean, if I had a friend going through something, I thought they tried everything. They tried scaring themselves with communication. They tried being healthy. They tried all kinds of exciting things. It's not really seem to work. What about people in Africa? And just try to survive in the wilderness. There's opportunities everywhere. And we always have opportunities. I believe that no longer I don't need to travel. Like, it's so fun to learn. It brought me reminded me of Rob at one of our recent retreats. And Timothy we were actually going to get a pellyweight, kind of goat, killed, eat for a meal. And they went to this farm, and Timothy saw these people that were like very poverty-stricken area, and they seemed so happy. Timothy, our guy, was like, man, they don't seem to really have much. What did they do? And the guy's like, yeah, it's funny. The less they have, it seems like the less they want. And I think you see the exact opposite in the United States, like the more we have, the more we want. I do think there is great fulfillment to be found and delighting and gratitude and small people being able to breathe and really
living life in the context of death, and to realize that death is sufficient for all. That's the mundane that anyone thinks that you must guarantee you're going to die. It really makes the most out of it. I know it's cliche, but you can always be reminded of that. And I was Christian for some time, something to die on a daily basis. Whether, I think some monks will carry skull and bones in their hands, or kind of, carry them in their hands and feel them to remind them, like one man being more mortality. It's just to really remind yourself that death is at the door. So, really enjoy yourself and find a deep, do what it takes to find a deep fulfillment and connection with the Creator, yourself, with others, your food, with the daily thoughts, give you a lot of eat, drink, and just really enjoy it. And challenge these three things that we're talking about. It might seem no one will ever make up. Since to really find the light in that. You find the light in that. Hey, maybe that's part of it. And it's part of just enjoying the moment. Makes sense when we pass over.
For sure. There's something you said about just the miraculousness and the mystery of life. And yeah, I think it's like what you said. I don't think it's meant to be understood as humans. I don't think it can be completely understood. I think you can definitely access different levels of it, and this can go into a whole other conversation about drugs and consciousness and all that good stuff, which maybe we'll save for a future conversation. But yeah, so I want to wrap this up. It's a little late here. It's coming up on 1 a.m. I want to be respectful of your time. I really appreciate you taking the time. And yeah, I guess I just want to close with saying thank you for the lessons and the life that you're living and the gifts that you're giving through that. And I mean, it's amazing the changes that are happening. I actually just met a friend from school, or an acquaintance from school, who was on your 2012 Costa Rica retreat, and is at the same school as me and living in Toronto. And so, I mean, you're having an impact, and you're affecting people all over the world, and those people are being drawn together, and then they're going to have impacts, and it's just a beautiful cycle of growth and giving and learning. It makes me really, really optimistic and really hopeful for the future. And, I think it's amazing the power that we have when we tap into what is really true for us, and we allow that to come through our lives and through our work. I think that's really the key. And so I see you guys, you and your brothers, as definitely great examples of that. And want to thank you for that and acknowledge that. And, just encourage people to pursue and to place a high value on these sorts of ways of being, and to examine how they are being in their lives. I think it's just so valuable and so needed. So thank you.
Yeah, man. I definitely think when we're fortunate enough to come from a somewhat authentic place, that we tend to be mirrored. And a lot of people don't necessarily resonate with our message or think what they do in there, but it sounds like you do. So thank you for allowing us to see in here and wanting more of it. Just being on a similar path of growth and presence, and letting that be a guide to where we go next.
Okay. Thank you, brother. Well, I hope to talk soon. You have a good night. Go cuddle with your beautiful wife there and enjoy some brews, and take care. Okay, peace.
I know, not the wife.
Okay, take care.